ATV presents an experiment. Can a brilliant historian talking about a fascinating subject hold the attention of a television audience of millions for half an hour? That is the question, and the answer lies with you. Our subject is the Russian Revolution. This evening's theme, the end of the Tsars. Our historian, Alan Taylor, Fellow of Magdalen College, Oxford.
Good evening. In the last days of December 1916, a small group of Swiss university students had one of their evening meetings, and an exiled Russian politician living in Switzerland gave them a talk on the coming revolution. He said to them, "The revolution's bound to come. You younger people will live to see it. But we older people," actually he was only just over 40, "we older people, we shan't see it." 10 months later, this same man, his name was Lenin, was dictator of one of the greatest empires in the world.
I was talking to Bill Ward, who was my program controller. I said, we need something for Sunday afternoon. He said, well, John Irving saw a professor at Oxford give a lecture. I said, what does he lecture about? He says, history. He's a great historian. I says, I'm not sure whether I fancy that, but I'd like to meet him. Ask him if he'll come up to see me for 10 minutes. He said, fine, and then he fixed up a meeting, and he walked in and seemed a nice man. He sat down. I said, what do you think he would like to do? He said, well, I'd like my first lecture to be on Russian history. I said, well, you know, that'll be very difficult for the public to understand. Why don't you tell me a little about it? And he started, and I was absolutely enthralled.
Russia, at the beginning of 1917, had been in the Great War for over 2 years. And this whole top-heavy, gigantic dictatorship of an empire was breaking down. Breaking down, and this is the one tiny little bit of information of my own which I can provide for you. All the rest is fairly well known, perhaps. Breaking down, curiously enough, because the Russian army used horses. The whole Russian empire, you can see this on the map, depended on railways. It had virtually no sea communications. It was held together by this iron frame. And the strain of providing a great army, of feeding millions of men, of sending up such munitions as there were to the front, was pretty tough. But the strain which broke down Russia was the strain of sending fodder to the millions of army horses. Because men, as you may be aware, men can fight when they're starving. They can even, as the Russian soldiers did, fight when they haven't got any ammunition. But horses are no good at fighting unless they're well fed. This is indeed why they're inferior and now have been discarded, and men continue fighting, but horses are all on half pay.
I was actually born in Russia. I came here when I was 5.5 years of age. And I learned things that I'd never known. And it was put so simply and so easily understandable, which was the secret of his success. You knew that here was a star, an unusual type of star.
AJP Taylor was the most famous historian of his generation. Brilliant and prolific, he was unique in being just as happy writing for the popular press as for the Oxford University Press. No other historian was as versatile or as visible. But more than his writing, it was television that made him a star, one of its earliest and most enduring. He first came to prominence as a panelist on In the News. This early 50s political discussion program